have found that letting go is a key piece moving forward in these turbulent times. As I commit to moving forward with my life, I think having a perfect companion and opening new doors of opportunities to hit my goals is my first step in moving forward. And so I decided to go with BPI. In just 5 minutes with BPI, I know I'm going to make it there. Moving forward with BPI helps me in manifesting my plans and working towards it. You might think it's impossible to move forward in the middle of a lockdown and restrictions, but BPI made it happen. BPI made me realize that I am the only one that's in control of my time and my future. BPI made it happen by opening an account online in just 5 minutes. I now have control of my time and my future because I can now pay my utilities, insurance, and credit card bills online. On top of that, I can now shop online for all of my needs and wants along the journey of moving forward. To start taking a step towards the life that you want, open an account online with BPI now. Having your own BPI account places convenience in your hands. Just open the BPI mobile app, create a bank account in just 5 minutes, and you're good to go. Remember to always choose what chooses you. BPI, your best companion in serving your needs. Open an account online anywhere today.
Hello? Hello?
Podcast Network Asia.
Hi, this is Alec Cuenca, and you're listening to Small Talk. Hey guys, welcome back to Small Talk, small conversations with huge impact. My name is Alec Cuenca, and I am your host. And yeah, welcome back to the show. If this is your first time, then I hope that you enjoyed this episode and you go and check out the other amazing episodes because you can learn a lot from them. I promise you. And if this is your nth time listening on the podcast, if you're an avid listener of the podcast, then welcome back to the show. I hope that you enjoy this episode as much as I enjoy recording it. And so today's episode is going to be a little bit different because for the past year, let's say 3 months, as you may have known, I have started my group coaching sessions, and we're meeting every single Monday, and we're talking about different concepts for us to be better human beings, better individuals. So back in June, we talked about beliefs. Back in July, we talked about goals. Back in August, we talked about habits. And during the near end of August, I noticed one thing. Among the people inside the Better Me Project group. I noticed that some of them experienced exhaustion, experienced fatigue, and they were doing really well. They have a lot of progress. I can see it. They're making a lot of progress. They changed their beliefs. They changed their goals. They changed their habits. But they reached a point where they just exhausted. They don't want to move forward. They just want to lay down and not do anything. And for me, after I've also seen some achievements back in my birthday week where I reached 1 million followers on TikTok, I reached number 2 on Spotify PH charts, and I'm preparing for my first ever personal development webinar or masterclass, I noticed that I too experienced exhaustion. Like there was a point where I just felt like my body just can't catch up. My mind is just too tired and exhausted. And even though I love what I'm doing, I still hit that spot. I still hit that phase where I feel so exhausted. And I noticed that progress, if not done in a balanced way, then we will be hit with some people call it burnout. But it's that point where you just don't want to move forward because your body is telling you that you can't just move forward anymore. You're really tired and you're really exhausted. And we should always listen to our bodies, okay? And I noticed one thing. I noticed one error that I did. And it's okay, we learn from our mistakes. I noticed one thing that I have not preached for the past 3 months. And I felt like I needed to talk about this right now because if we're not going to talk about this, then it's just gonna destroy the progress that we have, or I just can't bear to see any more people that want to improve themselves be hit with another burnout. And so I really feel like we need to talk about rest. Yep. So this podcast episode is just all going to be about rest. Okay. But I read something from the Bible that says something like Elijah, who was one of the most powerful characters in the Bible, he went to do his mission, but he got really tired from doing his purpose in life, right? He knew that was his calling, but he still got tired. So he was really tired. And while he went a day's journey into the desert, he came to a broom tree and he sat there and he prayed that he might die. He said, Lord, I am so tired. No, non-verbatim. I'm so tired, Lord. I've had enough, Lord. He said, take my life. I am no better than my ancestors. And then while he was cursing or swearing or complaining or asking God to take his own life, he laid down under the tree and he fell asleep. Now, a few moments later, an angel touched him and said, get up and eat. Now, he looked around and he saw at his head was a cake of bread, baked over hot coals. And there was water, of course. So he ate and then he drank and then he laid down again. Now, the angel came back for a second time and touched him and said, get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you. So again, he got up, he ate and drank. Now, he was strengthened by that food, and afterwards he traveled 40 days and 40 nights until he reached Horeb, the mountain of God, where he was supposed to be. Moral of the story, do not underestimate the power of a good snack and a nap. But yeah, we all see, even in the Bible, even coming from the people from the earliest time, we all know how important rest is. But we are so obsessed with just hustling. We built this culture of romanticizing people who work 24/7. Who's very resilient, who's, doing everything. And people sometimes say, like, I'll rest when I die. Like, hustle, 24/7, right? But this is actually counterproductive. The reality is, if we want to be truly productive in our work, then we need to prioritize our rest. Because did you know, if you don't take rest, our brains become cognitively impaired. In fact, if we don't sleep for 20 hours, if we're awake for 20 hours straight, then chances are we are cognitively impaired like a drunk person. You know how we drink alcohol and we become cognitively impaired? That's why sometimes we kind of black out and then we drunk call our exes and we make stupid mistakes because we're cognitively impaired, right? So there's a science behind that. But that's the same with the rest. If we're not prioritizing rest, if we're not actually resting, then we are compromising our health. And most importantly, we're compromising our productivity. And so if you truly want to be productive, then you need to prioritize rest. Okay? In fact, in our rest, which we will be talking in the future episodes, I'll go in deep dive into this. But rest, you got to understand that if you don't rest, if you prioritize your work over your rest, then you will experience a lot of stressful time. And when you're under stress, right, your productivity will decrease, your creativity will decrease, and it will have adverse effect on your physical, mental, and emotional health. If you're always under this stress of not having enough rest, okay? And if you take this for granted, then chances are you're going to lead yourself to a burnout. And when you reach that burnout, even if you sleep like 8 hours of sleep, you get 8 hours of sleep. Even if you rest, you'll still don't want to do it, or you'll still feel uninspired, disinterested in what you want to do, demotivated, because you've reached that point of burnout. So before you get to that point, you got to understand that you need to take a break. Okay, you need to prioritize your rest. You need to understand these things. First and foremost, rest is productive. Okay, when we rest, okay, our cortisol level decreases. And our cortisol levels is directly related to how our brain functions. And this is basically the stress hormones. And the higher the stress hormones are in our brain, in our body, that will basically impair or try to limit the functions that our brains can do. It will try to decrease the power that your brain, or it will basically make you unproductive. Okay? So rest is productive. Always remember that. Planning ahead of time is probably one of the best life hacks I go by. You also keep track of everything you do with a to-do list, grocery list, planner, and agenda? Is it enough? Sometimes the most important things in life come when we least expect it to. So it's best to always be prepared. I know it's hard, especially with everything that's going on at the moment, but there's one thing I can assure you with. You can start preparing your future while making the most of the present, even for just 5 minutes. Impossible? No. Kaya mo yan with BPI. To prepare for the future, you must be aware of the present. With BPI, you can start living in the moment without worrying about your future. BPI serves with speed and efficiency. You need to check whether your transaction is cleared. Pull up your BPI online account for the answer. You need to send money for your families while you're away. BPI online banking can immediately transfer funds. Security, your future is secured with BPI. Just download the BPI mobile app. Click open a new account and then create a bank account. Fill out the important details, send a photo of your valid ID, and take a selfie. Confirm it right away to start funding your account within 7 days. See? In just 5 minutes lang, di ba? What a hassle-free way to prepare for the future. Kaya yan with BPI. Now, if you're still wondering about what the future holds, open an account anywhere with BPI today. Experience the best life preparedness with BPI, near or far. Second, rest is a necessity. Okay? When we rest, there's this hormone called the human growth hormone, and it is produced when we're working out. But if we're working out, it only produces 25% of the human growth hormone. The human growth hormone actually increases production, the rate of production, when we are resting. Okay? So this is not just for because we feel like we gotta be productive. This is actually important because if we want our body to be maintained, if we want to do the thing that we're doing right now continuously and consistently, then we need to understand that rest is not a luxury. Rest is a necessity. Okay? It's important. It's a non-negotiable. You need to have at least 7 hours of sleep every single day. Maybe 6 hours. Sometimes some people can get it for 6 hours. Some people get it for 7 hours. Okay? But you need to have a good rest. Short breaks, long breaks, lunch breaks. You need to have those kind of things because your body demands it. We're not just saying this because we feel like we need to talk about this, but this is actually very, very important. If we want to always perform at the highest level, then we need to understand that our body needs it. There's no other option. So make sure that when you're plotting your schedules, when you're filling up your calendar, always put your rest as a priority. Okay? Rest is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Last one is the last thing that I want to remind you when it comes to rest is intentional. As I've said, you need to be intentional with how you spend your rest time. Okay? It's very important that you put it in your schedule because for some people, they won't do it. And for some people, they'll just say, no, I'll just rest when I'm tired. But it really messes up with your brain because you're maxing out your body, you're maxing out your mind, and this will just ruin the purpose of rest. Like if we want to get the maximum level of rest, then we need to take into account like the transition phase. Like we need to prepare ourselves before we go into the rest period. Like we don't need to rest only when we're tired or when we're maxed out. Like, okay, I'll just watch another series so I could fall asleep, or I'll just, go on TikTok before I go to sleep, and then we won't notice it's been 6 hours, 3 hours after we said that, and we just keep on scrolling. We just keep on watching the next episode. And so you got to understand that if you want to put rest as a priority in your life, then you need to be intentional about it. You need to schedule your nothing time. You need to schedule your mental health breaks. You need to schedule your sleep, of course. Put it on your calendar. And in that way, your brain will be automatically attracted into having more rest. Okay? So this is not something that, you'll just rest when you feel like going to rest. You need to be intentional about it. And building a good evening routine can also help you with that. And that's something that we will be discussing in the next episodes. But for now, those are the things that you need to remember when it comes to rest. First is rest is productive. Okay. Second is rest is a necessity. Third is rest is intentional. So make sure that you put rest into a priority and watch your life change. And so this is it. That's it for this episode. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you like this episode, go ahead and share it on your Instagram. Don't forget to tag me at Small Talk Podcast. And yeah, if you want to join our weekly sessions this month, we will be all talking about self-love. Okay, so last week we talked about rest. Next Monday, we're going to talk about forgiveness. Next week, we'll talk about kindness. And the last week, we'll talk about breathing, okay, breath work. So if you want to just have a safe space where you just talk to people and, get a coaching from me as well, then go ahead and send me a message, ask me about the Better Me Project, or go to bit.ly/The Better Me Project. Now, again, thank you guys so much for listening. This is Alec Cuenca, and I hope that you take a good rest today. Talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to Small Talk. For more updates, you can follow me at Small Talk Podcast on Instagram and on TikTok. That's at Small Talk Podcast on Instagram and on TikTok.
The views and opinions expressed by the podcast creators, hosts, and guests do not necessarily reflect the official policy and position of Podcast Network Asia. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything.